Realize it was muted. Okay.
Right.
The last session was muted, and we didn't know that. So we now have that corrected, I think. So we're going to talk about Kahoot, and both Maggie and I have used it in our classes in the past, and it's a nice, fun activity.
Yeah.
Students.
The students love it. They're very particular. They want to have the music playing. So they really, it seems like it's not just, it seems like it's a consistent thing that they've engaged in across classrooms, across campus.
And they've also used it in middle school and high school quite a bit. So it's a familiar environment, which is, something they tend to relate to pretty well.
I've even had students make their own Kahoots for classes, for presentations, and so they're quite entertained by this.
And in fact, it's a really good exercise to let students do it, and then they can share it with their class.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Kahoot is a free game-based learning platform. It's essentially a online quiz that is a competitive in nature. You can have individual play. So if you are interested in using this as a study tool or providing it for your students as a study tool, you can create questions on your own and you can quiz yourself as you move through. You can also do team play, and of course you can do a kind of competitive environment where you have multiple people competing against each other. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the team play, you'd break your students up into teams and they'd be competing against each other. And if you have groups in your class, persistent groups, and you're doing this in person, that's one way of doing it. This also works really well with synchronous online, and you can also post Kahoots for anyone who isn't there, should they be in the hospital or out on quarantine or away for the day
or something.
And it's a great review tool.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it serves different modalities really well. And so when you're playing the game itself, you get higher scores are awarded for correct answers, but also the quickest answer.
So it helps students develop automaticity so that if you've given them opportunities to practice things, this is a chance for them to practice quick recall. And because it's generally done anonymously and you're not keeping the grades in any type of grade book, it doesn't really matter if they don't get the highest score, but they like to. And that competitive atmosphere is something that tends to provoke quite a bit of engagement.
Yeah.
The questions could be multiple choice, they could be true or false, or multiple select. There's a limit though of only 4 options in each question, and there's a really short word limit. So if you had other questions that you may have to pare them down to make them easy, because most students will access this from a smartphone. So the real estate is what's available on the smartphone screen.
Yeah, so if you have like scenario-based questions, they may not work for those character limits, but again, students, it's really easy to access on your smartphone, internet browser. As long as you have some kind of tech that can connect to the internet, it's a super useful tool. And there's even an app that students can download so that, if they're playing, multiple games, all they have to do is enter in the game pin. Each game has a unique pin so that they can access, games across different courses as they choose.
And if you have the Kahoot app, you may want to open it now, or if you have if you're at a computer, you could also go in a browser to kahoot.it. Or if you're on a smartphone, you could take a picture of the QR code and that will open the website for you. Because we're just going to demonstrate it just to show how it works with a practice quiz we put together for some other workshops a year or 2 ago.
So if you go to kahoot.it, we'll give you the unique pin that you will enter for the game in just a second. Or again, you can use that QR code. Everyone
have that? Well, we're going to start the game, and that will actually make it. I think it's under here, isn't it? No, so, there it is. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to play now. And when it does that, you have the choice of either starting it for real-time play, which is the most common way of doing this, or you could assign it as an asynchronous activity. And if you're doing classes that are hyplex, that's one way of giving students at least one equivalent experience there. We can do we'll start it. And when we start it, we get a few options. And one of these I'd really recommend. And that is when you get to, well, you can choose to randomize the order of the questions if you'd like to, or the order of the answers as they appear. You can do some personalized learning with feedback and so forth. One thing, if you're doing this in a large class, particularly if you have freshmen who can be really sophomoric at times, you may want to use the nickname generator, because students would like to choose their own nicknames. And when you bring in a bunch of college freshmen, you know, the nicknames they choose may not be ones you want appearing on the screen. So
from experience, it is very inappropriate very quickly.
yes, very, very quickly.
Very
the first time I tried this.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about the nickname generator, because I was once proposed to in their, it was actually quite hilarious, but of course I couldn't laugh because anyways.
So the pin will show up in just a second. We're going to start it now. I just wanted to show you the nickname generator because, you know, otherwise you might have an experience you might not enjoy so much. And here is a game pin. It's 898-4797, or you can take a picture of the QR code. And what will happen is we will see, yeah, we can turn that up. That's really quiet.
It is really quiet. Trying to get the music to go.
But you will hear it on your own computers or phones if you have your volume turned on. And that is part of the experience. And I have no idea why the volume is so low. Wait. It's set at 100.
The other day during a session, and it took some finagling to get it to. I don't know exactly why.
It's going to probably the computer speaker instead of this. That's something about the way this computer is configured. But once it starts, you should hear it. We only have 3 people playing. Is there anyone who has not yet joined?
We only have.
Okay, so let's get started. So, well, this is the name of it. We trimmed this down from another one. The questions will pop up any second.
And you'll pick the corresponding answer. Your question is at the top of the screen, and once everyone has answered or the time limit runs out, the answer will be revealed. So we have 2 answers so far. Third answer.
Okay. And everyone chose a correct answer. Good. Okay. And right now, Glad Sloth came in with the quickest response. Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. Sometimes students will give away who that is, and you'll see some cheering going on. Okay, we got a little more mixed results here. This is an example of something called the testing effect, which dates back to the late 1800s. It's the most persistently strong result in the science of learning. The testing effect is one where the more students are tested on something, the more they remember it. That it's a really good way of consolidating memory. And in fact, it's better than rereading. If you read something a second time, you get a slight increase in what you remember. But if you read it a third time, there's no significant gain. Testing students on it, though, dramatically increases both short-term and long-term recall, which is one of the good reasons why you might consider using something like Kahoot. We'll go to the next question. Oops, I forgot to see who's.
All right, so we have our 3 answers here. And so the question's asking about long-term recall and whether blocked practice is superior to interleaved practice. And in fact, blocked practice is not superior to interleaved practice. So we have one person who selected the correct answer.
And by the way, this is one of the most common learning myths. We got some of these from a survey of neuromyths a while back. Block practice is really good if you want to remember something for a few hours or maybe a day, but it doesn't result in the same long-term effect. It does result if students are given block practice where they practice a given technique or skill over and over again, they can do it really well quickly. With interleague practice, they're trying different things and they're mixing it up, that they're going from one to another. And that feels less good. It feels like it's not as productive, but it dramatically increases your ability to have long-term improvement in skills or in knowledge. So, which is another reason why you might want to have a mix of questions on these things. Everyone got that? And Gladslaw maintains the lead. Maybe given away a little bit by the other one. Okay.
Good one. There you go.
Space practice is helpful. One more after this.
Yeah, one more after this.
And basically they don't. That if you look at functional MRIs, different areas of the brains are activated when experts and novices approach problems. That when you become an expert at something, it becomes somewhat automatic. It becomes more reflexive. You don't have to think about the problems. You see it, you identify the type of problem, and you have a set of tools that are well-defined, and it doesn't require as much cognitive processing. Novices in activity are constantly thinking about it, trying to think about which things apply, which models are most relevant.
Which is important, you know, as you know, we're teaching material that we are experts in, to think about, you know, that we might have some of those tools and frameworks already built into our minds that our students may not quite have yet.
So we may want to be careful about cognitive load in terms of the complexity of the work we're requiring of students. And it's also why peer instruction is helpful, because students who are at a similar level of development are often able to explain things more effectively. These are all common neuromyths, by the way. Oops, I didn't mean to stop that. Gladslaw retains the lead. And I think we've all seen that in the last couple of years. So, okay. And then at the end, the students would get this result. Now there is music playing, but it's really quiet. And it shows how each person did, and it will give you a countdown of the top scores. And then usually there's some cheering from one area where someone does it. There we go. Quiet cheering here. So that is Kahoot. And basically the interface is really kind of simple. What you do is we exit from there. And if you want to create a new one, you just go to create. You could create a whole course in here now if you have a paid account. I do have a paid account because I use it in my large classes from time to time, but you just create a new Kahoot and then you just start typing a question. And you notice here's the math equation thing. So you get some basic equation editing tools in there. And you can also include images here or videos.
Yeah. And I've had students, you know, in my women in crime class, and we were talking about stereotypes in media and television. They would actually find some of those examples of you know, stereotypes about women in media. And so, you know, the students would then watch the clip, identify, you know, what that stereotype is. And it was a really, you know, there's a lot of cool features in this.
And this is where you would add that. So you would add a video and you could add a GIF. You could grab from Unsplash some public domain images from Getty Images. You could add videos, or you could add an audio file if you want to give them something to listen to.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do that here because we don't have any of those right there. But so, and then you would put in your answer. Let's say this answer is these combinations of letters. This is this, this is this.
You could even make a picture as
a question. And what did I do there?
Which I always like to do when I'm like, are you excited about this class? And throw in, you know, some kind of a gif of, you know, excitement, or, you know, Elaine and Seinfeld dancing, you know, it's
No, thanks.
I
I
think
didn't.
you're in the wrong.
I know. Okay, there we go. And then you put in all the answers, and then if it's multiple choice, you just mark which one is correct. But you can also change your question type and so forth here, and you could, so this is single select, but you could have multi-select, and then you could choose a number of different correct answers, or you could have, well, you could just put true and false as the options, but you're limited to at most 4 questions. You can change the time limit so that if some questions you know are going to take longer, you can give it a longer time limit. If some things are fairly simple recall and just to help develop that automaticity, you can leave it short, and it defaults to 20 seconds. So, so that's basically it.
Yeah.
You just save it, and then you open it
share
up,
out,
you go
yeah.
to your library, you
can
click
share the
on,
code
Mhm.
with the students. You know, you can make a QR code if you so choose. Especially if you're teaching face to face and they have, you know, their technology at their fingertips. It's a really nice, easy way to get them that information.
and it's a great way of breaking up a class, especially if you're teaching in, you know, an hour and 20-minute section
Yeah.
or a 3-hour section, for example.
Absolutely.
But even in shorter classes, it's something that students do find fun.
Yeah.
Or you know, you could even give them a reading assignment and give them some questions at test set at the start of class. And it's a bit of an incentive. Again, they're not getting graded on it, but you know, they like to do well on these things. So
Yeah. Any questions?
Julie, Catherine, Nicole.
Well, if you do have more questions at some point, certainly email us and happy to answer them.
In your experience, does everyone happen to have a phone handy in the classroom?
Pretty much.
Okay,
And if not, you could always do it in teams.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
But,
the
you know-
library, we did it in a team at the library. One of our interns, he made a Kahoot of library history game. And so he did it and they had like, I don't know, 5 or 6 students in each group and they kind of did a team and the team that won was like, yay, at the end screaming. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, and that works well. You know, but I've never had a class where students didn't have at least one mobile device with them, or at least not in the last 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not run into the issue.
So they, can you repeat, do they have to have the app on their phone?
They
No.
don't.
They can use a browser on their phone as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, whatever browser they
Yeah,
use,
as
it
long
could
as
be
it can
Chrome or
connect to the internet.
Safari or, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
And again, it's just a little bit of fun, but it gives them some retrieval practice, and
Mhm.
it's a no stakes form of retrieval practice that students enjoy.
And if I'm doing it in the classroom, I like to, you know, put a link to it on Blackboard or the LMS so that they can go back and access it.
Yes,
On their own.
yeah, and after that, I always do the same thing. I
Mhm.
share it and I say, if you want to go back and review this, and in fact, I'll often put up practice quizzes that they can go back and review for a bigger block of things to give them
Yeah.
some interleaved and space practice on the content before they take a higher stakes exam. And you know, the image could be music notation. You know, you could have sort of bass and treble clefs up there, and you could ask them questions about it, or you know. It's,
Circle of fifths.
Great, thank you.
Is that a music theory thing?
it is.
Right, the circle of fifths. I remember my music theory class.
There you go.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. But if you have any questions, let us know, and we're happy to try to help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.